Now, once I go back to where we started here, if you can feel it, taste it, smell it, okay, they can see it. They feel this piece of paper. Now, another point of marketing, if I want to make an impression, do I just use a piece of typing paper? Or do I want a piece of paper with a little body to it?
The image. So
Yeah.
so that it's, as you say, rememberable.
Remember, because if I have it just on a piece of copy machine paper, what's rememberable? That's just another piece of paper. And as what happens in networking events, you pull out flyers, you pull out business cards, but where do they all end up?
Usually in the trash or in someone's purse, and they get home and a week later they're cleaning it out. Oh, what was this?
I can't remember who that was.
Yeah, so exactly. So that is something that you have to really focus on when you're really looking at whether or not you're getting results from your marketing. That could be a weakness. So how are you going to correct it?
Yeah.
And along that line as well, I know it's easy to think that you want to market to everybody. So that could be something that if you're doing and you're not getting the results, that's when you have to really stop and think and say, wait a minute. I have an ideal client. You may have 3 different niches or ideal clients. You have to market specifically for each one of those. Am I correct on that? So that you're making sure that you are speaking their message?
Yeah, correctly. Yes. Yeah, I'm not gonna use the same tonality and maybe not even the same words if I'm going into professionals versus a retail store. Retail store is much more difficult to get across to than a professional, because if I book with a professional, I know I'm going to be in a one-on-one or one to a couple people with that business, but I know I don't have to fight for attention. If I'm going into a retail store or I'm at an event, I have competition for that attention. And people can buy and saying hi, people coming by and doing this, that, or the other stuff. And so, you have to be a little bit more adept at doing that and make sure you're in their space a little bit where they're feeling uncomfortable, but they can hear you, they can see you. If it's loud, they can read your lips on putting all that together. But, if you're too close, you got to be aware of the anxiousness that's built up. You're in my space, and that. So you got to pay attention. If you're in their space and they're kind of moving away, then let them move away a little bit, but don't let them turn away on putting that together. So when you're doing this, just keep this in mind when you're planning your goals, because to write down a goal is the simplest thing. I want to add $10,000 to my income. Okay, that's a goal. I just did it.
Now, how are you going to get there?
Yes. Now you have to build a plan, and that plan signifies how you're going to build this goal or any other goal that you're doing.
Well, I have a question on that, because I know that when you're really focusing on that, if you are a sole entrepreneur, a sole business person, and you are the only one that really is your team member, would you recommend an accountability partner so that they can work with someone else to see things that they may be missing?
Any type of coaching you can get, whether it's business coaching, whether it's accountability coaching, any of it. Yes, absolutely. Accountability is easy because you can get a friend to help you be accountable. The trick, if you're using a friend, is you have to be willing to accept what they say. You've got to give them permission to be truthful no matter what they say. So that's the block to get over. That's why people hire coaches and strategists and all that, because they don't want to infringe on friendships. If your best friend tells you, that presentation really wasn't very good, it's, oh, I thought you liked what I did, and.
Well, with that, I know you have before we wind up the full 5 tips on the process and such, you have a day that I know you do VIP days all the time with a small group setting, and you have one coming up here, next week?
Yeah, the 18th, and I still have a slot or two open in my VIP day, which we hold at our home and on the comfy couches and chairs. And we do it that way because we want a relaxed environment. We want people to feel comfortable and open, and that's the whole thing is creating the right atmosphere. And from there, when people feel comfortable and they're in a non-threatening environment, they'll ask that question that they're really trying to find an answer to. Mm-hmm. They'll be able to pull that up through their gut and into their mind and actually speak it. And that's half of it right there. But the whole mastermind it's all non-threatening. Of course, masterminds were created back in the early 1900s by Napoleon Hill, and then expressed in his book Think and Grow Rich came a little bit after that on that. But it's a wonderful process. It's usually a lot more affordable. In my case, it's a lot more affordable than one-on-one coaching.
And with that small group setting, it is exclusive. So if someone you're guaranteed that if you come in, nobody else in your industry would be in that small group setting.
Correct. That is correct.
And how can they reach out to you to find out more information, Richard?
Well, you can call me on my cell phone, which is 321-446-2155.
All right, and we'll definitely put this up on our So Social radio show page here today, so that if you want to know more, you can connect with Richard. There is an interview process. He wants to make sure you're
correct.
A good fit for the group, because he wants to make sure that that he's able to serve you where you want and need to be served at this time. But this is a wonderful way to get into a small setting and really work through this process that Richard is sharing right now to help you set up your goals for 2017. So what is that fifth step?
The last step, you really want to know what it is?
I know, but you put me through this all the time, Richard. I get the pleasure of sitting in your VIP days as a
generically, it's called execution. What I like to say is just do it. Because that's what it's about. Or
like you like to say, really, is just go dirty, because if you don't go dirty and just do it, you're never going to do it.
Well, when you're trying something new, you're not going to find all the issues in it by putting focus groups together, talking to people about what they think. You've got to put them through the experience of what you're going to do, and that's the process that's called going dirty and figuring it out. Mm-hmm. The political elections, how many times did both of our presidential candidates tweak their messaging? Really for both of them, it was, especially in this last 60 days, they were tweaking every week, sometimes every speech, because they were trying to get closer and closer to that emotional connection that happened out there. So when you look at that, that's where you have to be. I like to give a quote on courage. A soft, easy life is not worth giving if it impairs the fiber of the brain and the heart muscle. We must dare to be great, and we must realize that greatness is the fruit of our toil, sacrifice, and high courage. And that is a quote from President Teddy Roosevelt.
It's a wonderful quote.
Over 100 years ago.
It's a really wonderful quote. We were watching a program on the Discovery of History channel the other day, I think it was, on early manufacturers and Teddy Roosevelt becoming president and all that. It was very interesting to see that time, and I feel like we're there.
Oh no, we're on the cusp. I don't know what's coming, but we're on the cusp of businesses just totally morphing. Mm-hmm. And again, this isn't because of who's going to be president. This is because we, the people, want to move to more and get away from the lack that we've been experiencing.
Precisely. And a quote that I actually posted up on social media this last week was one that I found that really resonated with me. And it's a quote from Michael Korda. He's a writer and a novelist. He says, one way to keep momentum going is to have constantly greater goals. And that brings back to your 5 steps. You're doing this process to set those goals, but you always have to be willing to stretch yourself and make it greater, because chances are you may reach it before the end of 2017. So you have to be willing to stretch yourself. As I say, we have to be ever evolving, ever growing, but to be able to make it even greater. Because some of us, and you know me from past experience, I kind of set some easy goals in the beginning. I was afraid to set greater goals because I was afraid I might not accomplish them. So that fear factor's in there. How do you handle that fear factor when you're setting your goals so that you do stretch yourself? You know, what is it? You have to get uncomfortable before you can be comfortable.
Exactly. I mean, you'll go through this when you start getting uncomfortable. That's a critical activity to you. Okay, so being a critical activity, once you understand that you're doing that critical activity, and you start getting nervous, you start getting sweaty, you start doing all these things that stress brings on, and everybody reacts a little bit differently.
Yep.
But when you look at these critical activities, you have to analyze them. You have to say, why am I nervous? Why am I holding back? What's causing it? Because there's something in you mentally that just doesn't feel right, and you got to find out what it is. And that is a critical step, but it is a very, very hard step to get across and pulling into on putting all that together. But it can be done. It can be challenging, and that's where you need to sometimes step out of your own comfort zone and come to a VIP group or hire a coach or somebody that's going to honestly and kindly help you move to that next level.
Well, we both have worked with coaches since we started our business in 98. For many years, we had one coach who's no longer with us, but we worked together with him. And then a few years ago, we hired another coach. Again, together, we worked with him and actually traveled to go to some mastermind classes. But this last year, we both have decided, that we're coaching each other, but we also have mentors and coaches individually, which has helped us. And I know I was sharing with my coach the other day what you've witnessed, and I know in me, it has really pushed me. And not the coach isn't pushing me. The coach is bringing out of me what I already have inside of me, and I'm pushing myself.
Do you remember what Bob Donnell, our coach in California, had us do the first time we got there?
Oh, my gosh. Share that, Richard. I still think about it. It was very frightening for me to do that.
You had to write a suicide letter.
To the person you loved.
To the person you loved the most. And it had to be a full-page letter. It just not a sentence or two. It had to be a full-page letter. Talking about gut-wrenching. First of all, just the thought of it is gut-wrenching.
Yeah, I mean.
But you had to go through there because his objective there was to get me, into our mind and start seeing little flashes coming from the subconscious mind, okay, we're all controlled by. But he wanted us to get into that emotional realm where we were really feeling and tasting what was going on in ourselves when we had to do it. And when I'm writing the letter to you, it was difficult. First of all, I want to end my life. No, I don't want to end my life.
I didn't want to do this.
That's about as far away from anything as I can dream.
Had no desire
but I know
to do that,
for some people it's real. And I know for him and his family, it was very, very real. I don't want to go into any details.
Exactly.
But it was.
And he is a counselor. Helps with those
bereavement,
that are
yes,
bereavement, as well as those that are contemplating suicide. He's been able to save a number of lives. But what it did for me that day when I was actually writing it down,